Hi, my name's Breadmore, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about my experiences of being new to Google Apps and kind of moving over to Google Apps, but also one of my passions, which is ICT outdoors, and how we can try and work with schools to try and make it so that technology isn't all about netbooks in the classroom, and it isn't all about ICT suites. It's about the variety of different devices, the variety of different ways you can use ICT. Just briefly about myself. My teaching background is actually in post-compulsory, so I was a university and college lecturer for 5 or 6 years. But I'm also an artist, and so I've been working in schools using digital media for about 10 years, and I'm kind of a self-professed and proud geek. Last year, I was accepted onto the GTA, so I became a Google certified teacher. I've done all the certificates, but I haven't actually done the final application to become an Apps CT, but I'm kind of that close to being Apps CT as well. So I work in lots of different schools. I worked in 100 schools last year, primary and secondary, mostly primary. And when I was thinking about what to do for this talk, I kind of decided I was going to kind of stick to one primary school that I've been working with quite a lot, which is a school in Birmingham called Hodge Hill. It's very close to the old Fort Dunlop. I got involved with the school because a new head teacher came in. And Hodge Hill's a lovely school. It's a really, really nice school, but it's a massive school. It's a growing school. So it's currently a 3-form entry, growing to a 4-form entry school. And as part of that, it's also rapidly expanding. An awful lot of new building works taking place, new classrooms, new development. It's a long, thin school. They've built on both ends of the school. So it's now a really, really long and really, really thin school. And I think it's fair to say I started working there 18 months ago, and they had zero culture of using technology. I mean, there was a few teachers who were interested in using technology, but there really wasn't the facilities, the resources, and most importantly, there just wasn't a culture of using technology at all. And so I'd worked with the new head teacher in her previous school. She invited me to come in and just try and do something exciting and kind of roll out technology a little bit. And so I've been working with year groups on project-based work. Key Stage 1, absolutely no dedicated ICT provision whatsoever. So they had an ICT suite, one ICT suite for the whole school, but it's at the opposite end of the school. It takes about nearly 15 minutes to walk a reception class from their classroom up to the ICT suite. And when you've got a 45-minute slot, the maths don't really add up to be able to do a valuable kind of ICT lesson. But the other problem is like when you're building, all of that capital budget disappears real quick, and all your ICT budget disappears real quick as well. Going on new staff machines, new whiteboards, new projectors, new resources for the classroom. So they basically said, look, we've got no money to buy kit. We just need to work with what we got. I've got a bit of a reputation as a cupboard rummer. Let me try saying that one more time. As a cupboard rummager. So I don't believe that you need to have the highest tech, the most amazing technology in the world to be able to do great ICT projects. So we kind of dug out some old 3.5-inch floppy drive Sony Mavic digital cameras. There were 3 of them. That's the only digital cameras they had in school. And so we set on this journey of trying to do something really exciting with technology and try and change the culture without spending much money and being able to buy many resources because of all the capital money's gone. So one of the first things we did was we rolled out Google Apps for Education, and because it's everyone's favorite price. And it's the thing that I like about it is it works across the whole year, across the whole school, across years, because it's kind of modular. You can take things away and add things in. It works across multiple devices. So we built this sort of pictographic navigation system for it. And at the moment, we're mostly just using the core Google Apps suite. And there's a couple of things, like we weren't really keen on rolling out email across all classes, so we took away the privilege to send emails outside of the school, and we kind of rebranded it as notifications, because when you're sharing documents and sharing things and sharing files using Google Apps, you need to receive those notifications a lot of the time. So that's just a sort of inbound way of getting notifications. And apart from that, it's links through to other stuff. All of the classes have a site. There's school and class calendars. One of the other things that we did was we made a teacher area that, again, is growing. And we reconstructed all of the booking for the school equipment. It was, that great irony of having a piece of paper up in the staff room for booking the ICT suite. So we We used appointment slots, and any of you that use Google Apps for Education will know the dramas that we've had over appointment slots disappearing and now coming back. So we use appointment slots to be able to book all of the equipment. It automatically adds to people's drives. When we were rolling it out, we really took advantage of digital leaders in the schools. One of the first things we did as well. There's loads of great stuff with digital leaders happening at BETT. Please, if you're not familiar with digital leaders, it's a program that really encourages young people to be actively involved in promoting the use of technology in schools. I can't recommend it highly enough. There's loads of digital leaders around at BETT. Have a look at the website and find out things that are happening. So the DLs were the first people that we trained on how to use Google Apps, the very first people. The idea being that they could be our kind of champions for it in the school. And then we chose a core group, year 3 and 4, to roll out to next to the 2 classrooms. And it was only once we'd worked with, 6 classes and the digital leader group as well. It was only once we worked with those 7 groups of kids that we then started the staff training to get the staff involved. And now we're just at the point in the last couple of weeks now. We've been rolling it out over about 3 months where we've introduced the whole school to Google Apps. Now, one of the things that I'm really interested in and have been doing for a long time is trying to engage communities. And I think it's really important. One of the main ways I do that is I do an awful lot of blogging in schools. I think blogging and global publishing, online publishing is really important. It gives that a really important real-world context to kids writing and the content that kids are producing. So that gives a purpose to what they're doing. And also you've got this dialogue, this engagement with the outside world. And also in a school like Hodge Hill, an inner city school with a lot of kids, we've got 30 different languages spoken. And so we've got kids from all different backgrounds that have arrived in the country, but also grown up in the country. It's really important to try and be able to engage a broad range of different people and their families who aren't just in the local area, but families that are all around the world as well. So in short, it kind of gives the kids a sense of place to be able to to not just keep their learning hiding within the school bounds, and to try and give them a sense of place and where their education sits within the whole of their life and how that's going to roll out through the future. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about one of the projects we did. This is with year 4 at Hodge Hill Primary. So we ran this simultaneously with 3 classes. At the core of it, we had a site set up specifically for the project. And it's the year 4 topic that we were covering was our local area. It's kind of a pretty standard one, common one that any of you primary people, I'm sure, will be familiar with. But it's also a subject that is covered throughout primary and secondary education and kind of seemed relevant for the talk. So I just wanted to run through a couple of the things that we did on the site for engaging the community or really exploring our local community in a new way. So the first thing we did was we started playing with a Google a Day, and by pure coincidence they have these books around the corner of these Google a Day search ideas, but it's also on Google+. It's like a game that you can play where you score points for how quickly you manage to search and find the answer to a question. So we were sort of using a Google a Day with some of the year 4 kids to build up their search experience, how well they were researching using the internet. And when we were doing that, we decided that we wanted to try and test it somehow. So the way we test it is by using forms. Now this is the old forms, and yesterday forms was updated, so there's lots of new functionality on there, but it's pretty bog standard forms, and I've used in the past, I've used SurveyMonkey and various other kind of free online tools for creating forms. They're very, very similar, to be perfectly blunt. The main benefit I like about Google Forms is the fact that when you receive all of the survey responses, it auto-populates into a spreadsheet, and then in that spreadsheet you can then hit show summary, and it automatically builds pie charts, bar charts, tables, percentage information of all of the data. So when kids aren't doing yes or no questions, it automatically builds these things for you to be able to get a really quick summary. And so for kids who work visually, that's really great because you can do yes or no and then immediately, instantly pull up a live pie chart that shows the difference in color weighting between yes and no. So we asked them to research things about Hodge Hill, the local area, using the internet, finding out questions. And this is just looking in the browser in Google Search. But we were asking them to find multimedia resources as well, so getting them to find out things. Some of this stuff's from Wikipedia, but then we're also trying to use them to use image search, and there's sort of skills that are built into that as well, being able to source and link to images that they find and connect to as well. And of course, there's a referencing, there's a kind of citation thing that's important there as well. And what's brilliant then is you get a column in your spreadsheet of a load of URLs to pictures of Hodge Hill. So you've got like a list of pictures, a list of resources that you can use later on, like ready built, that you can just click on, see all the pictures for exploring. Another thing that we did, and I've done this in lots of schools, is a maths map. Have any of you ever worked with maths maps? You can do them in Google Maps, you can do them in Google Earth as well. We used Google Earth. So you create a bunch of pin markers on a Google Earth My Map. This is actually data from the survey, from the, the census. You can download the census data, import it into Google Earth, and then bring up a highlighted area that says, right, when you look at the survey, the census results for this area, that's the area that it's talking about. You can bring that up live on Google Earth. So that's when they talk about Hodge Hill on the census. So when we're looking for statistics about Hodge Hill, that's the area they define as Hodge Hill. And then this is the area around the school. And when you create a My Map in Google Earth, you can put any content you like in that bubble. So we just use mostly text-based, but any embeddable object, anything that has that HTML embed link, YouTube videos, you can put presentations, you can put anything. I mean, sure you know all the things that have the embed icon. So we use Photo Peach slideshows in there and Picasa slideshows, pictures, videos, anything like that. When you click on it, it brings up the question. And they're all questions. In this case, the numeracies topic the kids in Year 4 were doing at the time were measuring distance, measuring length. So we're using, in Google Earth, there's a ruler tool. You can use the ruler tool to measure the length. So we've got questions like, how long is the longest edge of the ICT suite? So the kids have to use Google Earth to find the ICT suite from the satellite image of the school, and then use the ruler tool to measure the length of it. Then they can use a real tape measure, because they're in the ICT suite, to actually check their results and see how accurate, and it opens that discussion about how accurate this information is as well. But we had loads of other questions like that. You can, measuring how long it is to get from this dot to this dot by measuring down the road, by giving you 2 different road names and asking which one's the longest. We did a thing about the circumference of the playground by using the polygon tool to measure the polygon of the distance around the playground, and then they go outside and they check it with a wheel, again, kind of checking the validity of their responses. And once again, they submit their answers via that form. The other thing is when you're using Google Apps and you're using Form, when the kids are logged in, it submits their username and it date stamps their response. So you can use this for assessment as their results, because you've got then the username of the kid, the date and time that they submitted, and then all of their answers already pre-populated into a spreadsheet. Okay. So then we thought, well, how can we roll this out so it actually impacts upon the community a little bit further? One of the teachers from a previous project had a relatively good sort of communication with our local councillor, which is Councillor Mahmood. And she decided that it would be really good for the kids to write a letter to Councillor Mahmood to talk about their local area. So we've got to find some way of garnering the kids' responses, what they think of their local area, and then feeding that back to the local councillor for a real-world response, for a real-world engagement. Remember, these are Year 4s. So we opened a site, we asked the question. Today, during Curriculum Innovation, we're going to be writing an email to Councillor Mahmood. They did that in docs. And inform them on the condition of our local environment. We can't wait to hear from him. They asked the question, what part of Hodge Hill do you think we could improve? And then we use the comment infrastructure within the site to enable the kids to then have a discussion, have a dialogue about the things that they like about the area and the things that they don't like so much. And this theme came out. This theme came out immediately from the kids. We need more bins. There's rubbish everywhere. So we get this problem that the kids have identified that there's not enough bins around Hodge Hill, and that's the reason there's rubbish everywhere. So then we go, well, prove it. How do you know there's not enough bins in the local area? So this is when the real geek in me comes out, and I love GPS, okay? I'm a geocacher. Any of you that know what geocaching is? It's like a hide-and-seek game with GPS. And I've been doing geocaching in schools for 5 or 6 years, and I thought, brilliant, this is an opportunity to do some GPS stuff. Right, so there's loads and loads and loads of different GPS devices on the market. I've used loads of them in different schools, different settings, different purposes. But for Hodge Hill, it was a bit of a weird one because this is a school with no ICT provision, right? So we thought, what kit can we buy? How can we find some budget to make it so we can use GPS? And we came up with an answer that won't work for every school, but an answer worked for us. This is a school that doesn't even have class cameras, and so I'm trying to convince them to buy GPS devices. Android is our friend, okay? I'm an Android user, use Android for my phone, and so what we did was I managed to convince the school to buy 30 of these. This is a Huawei, and trust me, it is a good brand. It's the 3rd largest phone manufacturer in the world. Huawei Ascend G300, exclusively from Vodafone, at a brilliant unit price of 80 quid plus VAT. It's a 4.1-inch smartphone, it's got a gigabyte processor and half a gig of RAM, and most importantly, it's got a 5 megapixel camera with flash, and it's got GPS. So straight away, we've got a touchscreen device. Now, we didn't want to create something that was a learning tool, all right? This isn't for the kids to use. We wanted to create something that meant that, firstly, we could do this GPS project. Secondly, the staff could take pictures, because there just wasn't enough record taking. Actually, EYFS at Hodge Hill, they're brilliant at taking pictures. But further up the school, because there wasn't the resources, I think many years ago there were class cameras, but you know how they sort of wander. So we thought, what can we do? So we came up with this device, bought 30 of them, and have started rolling them out about 3 weeks ago. So we can have, so we use GPS Essentials, which is a free app on Android, and it lets you do various things. It lets you map a track that you're walking. It's got an e-compass built into it as well. It gives a data logger, so we can measure distance walked, measure average speed, we can plot routes, and we can save destinations. When we take a photo, it geotags the photo, which you can then open in Google Earth as an overlay of, look, this picture was taken here, when you're back in the classroom using the whiteboard. So it geotags those photos using Picasa. We also use an app called Folder Sync Lite, free app, and this is the thing that the big sell for the teachers, every time they take a photo on this, because it's connected to the Wi-Fi in school, it automatically syncs to their drive, and it's sitting for them on their machine, waiting for them already. No more filling up the SD card and then waiting for ages, then plugging it in and putting them in some arbitrary folder on the network and forgetting where it is. Automatically saves it to a date-stamped folder on the drive, which in Picasa we then use face tagging to pick out the individual images of the kids. So what we did was, for the bin survey, we planned this fantastic session, right? GPS on the devices, go out and send 4 groups out simultaneously to do different areas of the local area, and every time they find a bin, save a waypoint on the device. Saves as a GPX file on the device, so that they go and do this survey of where all the bins are, so we can find the black spots of where the bins are missing. We also decide to look for rubbish, like where's there rubbish piling up? Where do we think the bins are needed? So we got all this data, did this planned fantastic session, and there we were ready to do it 2 weeks ago. And then we kind of have this bit of a problem in the fact that the school closes and we're under 10 inches of snow, and our plans are scuppered somewhat. So we still haven't actually done this GPS session, but there are staff that are doing a similar GPS session this week in my absence. So what do we do instead? Well, we fell back on Google Earth. So instead what we did is went to the ICT suite using Street View. We got the kids to navigate the streets in Street View looking for the bins and then mark them on Google Earth. It meant that they couldn't actually physically go out and walk the streets because, bless them, they're only like 8 and they would have been traipsing through the snow in -4 or whatever it was. So we did it all on Google Earth from the warmth of the ICT suite. And then we got all of these GPX files together and then made this survey of where all the bins are and where the kids think where the black spots are where they need bins to be. So we've got this fantastic data set of information the kids have entirely gathered themselves. The last thing that we did was we sent a survey out to parents using Google Forms to get the same responses we were asking on Google Sites about what they think about their local area, asking the parents in the local community to get involved. Where do they think there's rubbish? Would it help to get new bins? The kids wrote the questions for the form themselves. And we ended up with all this data. I've kind of run out of time, but the last thing I will say is the thing I really like about using GPS is using Google Maps and Google Earth. There's loads and loads of brilliant API kind of resources that you can use that are all free. Animaps lets you tell stories. It's a brilliant literacy tool for overlaying over maps. GeoNames is this brilliant thing. You just type in the name of a place and it marks every single place name of that name in the world. So you can say, oh, well, how many places are there called Hodge Hill? Or how many places are there called whatever, and it brings up every single one, and the kids can then think about the differences between those different places around the world and the similarities. And then GPS Visualizer, if you haven't come across it, when you get this GPX or this KML data, GPX Visualizer is this brilliant ensuite suite of tools for free that let you kind of mash up and explore and combine all of that information together, so you can move images, pictures, the files that we get off the devices, open them in Google Earth. You can take 10 KML files, which is the data, the GPS data, and squish them all together into one thing. So just the very last thing I'll say is the other benefit of these Android devices, I don't know, I've lost it, impressive, is that it finally gave staff the opportunity to access all of these resources on their mobile device as well. So there's a Drive app on their device. They can access their calendar. They can book the ICT suite from the device. They can message each other. There's no phone signal in Hodge Hill whatsoever, and it's such a big school. If you're trying to find someone, it can be a real nightmare. They can message each other on their devices and email each other on their devices. So it lets them use all the apps and suites. And for a unit cost of like 80 quid, which is about the same you pay for a class camera anyway, so I've run over, I've talked for too long. If any of you want to talk or ask me any questions or chat about geeky GPS stuff or anything like that, or about apps, then I'm going to hang around for a bit. But my Twitter's on there. I'll share this slideshow on my Twitter and on my website. So if you want to get these slides, although mostly it's just pretty pictures, then you're welcome to them. But my name's Breadmore. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy BETT. Thank you.